Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant podcast. My name's Phil. Joining me as usual, I've got Rohan. How you doing, mate?
Hey, good. How are you guys?
Good, thank you. And today we are joined by Mike. Mike, thank you so much for coming on today.
Wow, my pleasure.
This podcast is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabu. For a small monthly fee, you'll unlock powerful features like secure, effortless access to your system from anywhere, your choice of voice assistants, offsite backups, and more. It's all configurable in the UI, and there's no YAML needed. It also supports the development of Home Assistant projects, including ESPHome and other Open Home Foundation projects. Check the link in the description to learn more. We'd also like to give a shout out to our Patreon members, including our executive producers, Benny and Jason. You can support the show and get early access to episodes, all in an ad-free feed. To support the show, check out homeassistant.fm and click Patreon in the menu. I'm really excited for today's episode because we have had people emailing us. There's been comments on Spotify, on YouTube saying you need to get Mike from the SmartyVan on. So Mike, thank you for coming on, talking to us today. I know I've watched a fair chunk of your videos. But yeah, I guess to bring it back in, Mike, where are you from and what got you into Home Assistant? Very briefly.
Well, yeah, that's a big question. Where am I from? Well, I've spent a majority of the last couple decades in Los Angeles. I was actually directing TV commercials, hence some of the lighting and things going on here. But I've always been a tech nerd. I mean, that's kind of part of cinema in a way. It's always like kind of technology driven. And of course, my home was automated. It wasn't an Home Assistant, but it was automated. I'm an Apple kind of lifer. And a few years ago, my partner and I decided to build a van and live in it full time. And of course, to do that, I decided, well, this needs to be smart as well. So that's sort of how it all began, or at least how SmartyVan began.
That's, yeah, like a big commitment, right? Was this post-COVID you decided to live in the van?
Yeah, this was, well, we've been in the van about a year and a half or so, just a little bit over a year and a half. And then we were building the van a year and a half prior to that. So, about 3 years back, this began.
Planning for something like that is a big thing, especially, planning for, a van that you're living in and so on and so forth is a big deal on its own. But then beyond that, you're also, again, obviously we're a smart home podcast. You've also gone out and made it smart, right? I have so many questions around, just the planning and the logistics of all of that stuff. Before we even get to the smart stuff, I want to know, like, planning for a van. Like, did you? I know, like, there's a lot of folks that are doing this, these days. And is it something that you bought pre-made, or you said, nope, I'm gonna buy the shell and then build it out, that kind of thing?
Yeah, good question. Sorry, I'm in an industrial area right now, so if you hear a train, that's why. We bought an absolutely empty, brand new Sprinter cargo van, and it had 3 front windows, the front windshield and 2 sides, and that was it. And everything else was, just rolled off the factory line empty. They have a junky floor in it, and you take that out is the first thing you do. And then from there, you're like, okay, we need to build a house in here with all the things. I had never done it before. I had a van previously that I bought that someone had kind of home built as well. It was not meant for full-time living, so it was much more of like an adventure vehicle with off-roading and had a pop top. And so there was no real environmental controls, HVAC or anything like that. It had basic water stuff, a little stove and things like that. But we were building something we knew we wanted to live full time in. So it was just about trying to go down every rabbit hole to understand every possible subsystem, from water, electric, all the way through HVAC, but then all the little systems in between. And then of course I wanted it to be smart, but that was sort of just seemed like an obvious thing. I don't remember the day that I decided that. It was just sort of like, well, of course it's going to be like smart. And then I didn't realize that wasn't really a thing yet. Like there wasn't a lot of people talking about it. And so I was just sort of trying to imitate what I did in the house. And then I very quickly realized, oh, this isn't going to work like I thought it would being a being an Apple HomeKit guy was like, wait, like you don't have 120 volt power, you don't have internet all the time, like all this stuff starts to crumble. And so I started to just realize I need to find a foundation that allows me to build in a DC power world, because we're living on batteries, they're DC powered, low voltage. And, the internet, it turns out we have it almost all the time, but it's not guaranteed. And we're certainly not wanting to send everything to the cloud all the time. So Home Assistant came into my life and I was like, oh, this is what I gotta do. It's like, now there were still a lot of questions of, can you do all this stuff that's kind of specific to a vehicle in Home Assistant? And I mean, it turns out the answer is yes, but I wasn't sure when I started.
You have a full out YouTube channel on it. It is very much a yes. Yeah.
By now I do, but I had no intentions of doing that, by the way. That came way after the fact.
Yeah. That's cool. And as you started going into it, planning all the smart home, smart van stuff, right? What were some of those considerations? Because like you said, again, everything is DC, everything is, and I wouldn't call it stable power, right? Like it's you sometimes have not fluctuations, but you turn on the heater, that starts to, give a hit to the battery, and how do you deal with a lot of those kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, just power in general is like it's a precious resource in a vehicle, right? I mean, the technology there has gotten pretty good. We're generating power in several ways. I mean, we're collecting power from solar panels, which at this point I think of as a bit of a maintainer, right? It's not a whole lot of juice you're getting from the square footage you have on top of a van, but 600 watts, it's something. And then the big win for us came from alternator charging. So I mean, you essentially have a generator in your car, right? It's charging your starter battery and starting your vehicle and doing all that. We have a second alternator that's sole purpose is to pump amperage into our house batteries, the batteries in the back. And that cranks out like 2,000 watts. So, I mean, that while we're driving, we get a lot of power, but just in general, power preservation is important. So being careful that you're not, at home, we just plug stuff in the wall. You don't really think about it. You might get a big electric bill and okay, you back off a little, but like we're talking measuring, watts here and monitoring that. So a lot of it's just about thinking about how to make stuff consume as little as possible or manage when it's on or off. But it is all running, in our case, 12 volts DC. A lot of vans are running natively 24 or even 48 volts, but still kind of the same issue, the same math, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of considerations.
Part of that is just that there's not a lot of off-the-shelf devices, at least they weren't apparent to me at first, that are addressing the things you can address with the product lines that are available for home automation, like traditional non-mobile home automation, where you buy a thingy and it either has a hub or it joins your Wi-Fi network and it solves a problem. It's a smart switch or it's a smart outlet or it's whatever it is. There just isn't really like a lot of that where you just go, I need to switch. We have a lot of unique problems and they're not solved by a lot of retail products. You're kind of creating a lot of your own little controllers. This is where like ESPHome is a huge part of my world because you can control all the things I'm talking about, whether it's valves or pumps or just switching relays to control DC circuits. Like you kind of had to create, we had to create a lot of this stuff. And now I'm discovering there is sort of a world out there like commercial automation, factory automation is run on DC voltage, a lot of it. So a lot of those products kind of slide in to fit, but it's not stuff you're just aware of in the like home automation world.
And do you have to worry about like vibration and that kind of stuff?
Sure, you should. I mean, it's a lot of people joke it's like a rolling earthquake. I mean, literally we spent 8 weeks in Baja, down in Mexico, and there's not a lot of pavement there. And if there's a lot of potholes. And so you're just constantly, and you're talking about a, several ton van just slamming up and down on washboard roads. Like everything inside is feeling that. So yeah, you think about that. I mean, luckily stuff's pretty resilient. I'm just thinking through like nothing's broken for us. I mean, the electronics seem pretty resilient, but I do think about how I mount things. A lot of things have like dampeners, rubber washers or mounts, whether, there's so many pieces that I can't think of one in particular, but they all have some sort of padding or mounting that would absorb some kind of shock. But people even question like, is a relay safe in that environment? But there's relays in cars all the time. So yes, the answer is yes. A relay is not gonna suffer too much from that vibration, but maybe a cheap one would. I don't know. But yeah, we think about it all the time.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So I'm guessing you are very much aligned with Home Assistant's one of its pillars, which is energy management, right? And saving energy, because you literally have to count the watts that your home consumes. What are you running the SmartyVan on? Like, have you got like a Raspberry Pi? Like, what was your decision to use like as little energy as possible to maximize Home Assistant?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we still run a Raspberry Pi 4 as our main compute core. I like to call it compute core. That sort of works for me, but like it's been in a 3D printed case. It's been in a commercial case with a fan. I've tried a couple different things, but it's always, and I'm an SSD card guy, a micro SD card. I kind of merged the two. Yeah. I know a lot of people would give me slack for that. I have been recording we have 3 external cameras recording in HD for a couple of years, full time to this micro SD. And it has not, knock wood, has not let me down yet. It is like a SanDisk Extreme or whatever, it's meant for video recording, but we've run the entire install on a single micro SD since I developed it on my office floor. I know someday it's going to give up the ghost, but it was kind of a little bit that I didn't know any better because I was brand new to Home Assistant. I had messed with Raspberry Pis for a couple things, but I didn't know a lot about the durability of micro SD cards. Now I get a lot of attention for still using a micro SD card, but I find it interesting as a test. Like, how far can I push this micro SD? Yeah. It's been recording 24/7 video for years, and it's still there. Wow. But that's low power, right? That's part of it. It's like it's just like another thing. It doesn't have a hat with an SSD in it. Not that would maybe be a huge difference. Certainly more reliable, but I just went as minimal as possible, and some of that was out of ignorance. Some of that eventually became sort of a badge of honor to like, hey, it's still going. I'm not going to take it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you got a good backup process in place?
Of course. Of course. We automate that. And we have to always, again, another thing we always have to think about, we don't always have internet. So I automate to kind of check if we have internet first, then run backups, like that kind of stuff. A lot of things kind of check first, like, do we have a ping right now? Okay, great, proceed. Otherwise I might miss a backup for a couple nights in a row or something. At this point, I don't change my install very much, so I slowed down the backups because I'm not really modifying the config, but I've kind of left it in a stable state some time ago in RVAN. But yeah, I'm tinkering elsewhere all the time.
That's cool. Do you ever do like on the road kind of backups and stuff, like as you're driving?
You mean literally as we're moving?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we run Starlink Gen 3 is flat mounted on a roof. So like, we have it on when we're moving almost all the time because we can, we have cellular as well, but like it's faster usually. And and when we're in, Canada or Mexico, that is our only internet in like for the van itself. So we do, my partner Shar was like our route planner, navigator, researcher. She was like on her laptop, like, high speed internet while we're driving. Yeah. So, everything that would be happening just is carrying on the server, whether that's backing up to the cloud or pulling weather data or this, like there's tons of stuff that's automated as long as we have a ping. Even like our voice, like we have a text to speech, who kind of announces, we call him Jarvis, but like announces like stuff that's happening or critical alerts, like your water level's getting low or the battery level's getting low. And that sort of does a check. Like if we have a ping, then it uses the Nabukasa voices. And if we don't, then it uses the local text to speech. So I have that's the other kind of stuff we have to check on. Like we can't assume there's internet, and that stuff will fall down if it's like, if it can't reach Nabukasa, it's just like nothing happens and you don't get the alert. Instead, it falls back to local voice, which is, handy. And then we kind of know if we hear the other voice, we're like, oh, we must be offline. It doesn't happen much, but it does happen.
What are you using to detect when you're online? You've got like a ping sensor set up, and
mostly ping. Yeah, ping has been the most reliable. I don't want to cause a lot of traffic. We run a speed test when major conditions change. Like if we turn Starlink on, once it is connected, then we run a new speed test just so we kind of have recent data. I never end up looking at that stuff. Like the internet stuff just works. Like at this point, it's fun to have data, but I've tried to like back off like doing all the things you can do to always be like testing and pulling data and hitting APIs. It's just like, if I need it, I do it. If I don't, so like speed tests are run very infrequently, but it's ping. Ping is like just tells us everything we need to know.
And also in your situation, where are you going to put that data? Like you're running on a microSD, unless you've got a secondary system there that you're pushing that data to, or you're going to the cloud, but the cloud's not always there, right?
It's not always there. I mean, it is usually there, but it's not always there. I mean, it's a huge microSD, but I did do a lot of filtering out of, the recorder entities to sort of calm down the amount of data that goes into the database. I mean, I'm not running the defaults, I'll say that. I don't know if I remember, but I slimmed down the number of days, and I definitely exclude a bunch of blobs like from the recorder that are just like noisy data. Like we're pulling in data from our electrical system, which has tons of entities for solar production and alternator power production. And it's just entities on entities, and they're constantly changing. So it's just like that stuff. I'm like, I don't need history and all of that. To be honest, like we monitor our power more in real time than in historical data. I do have some key things, like I want to see solar generation, but our power system has its own sort of mechanism to keep long-term data. So it's there if I really want to study it in the long term. But once I kind of got to know like a year of van life, it's sort of like, okay, I know what our solar panels are going to do in what month and at what latitude. So it's kind of like, I just don't look at data as much as I thought I would. It's nice to have, but I'm more in the moment. Like what's happening right now is what I really want.
Yeah, that's very fair, right? Now, when you're like, as you're driving through different places, as you're whether it's different states, different countries, whatever that is, are you doing any like cool kind of data collection or any kind of cool automations as you're in this? Like, hey, I'm in Montana, do this, I don't know, whatever, kind of play the song or something,
play
something
this.
like that.
I don't have that one, although I thought of that at some point. I joked with Shar, my partner, about trying to do some kind of automation that would look up a song with like the state name in it and play the song when we cross the border. Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, I could spend a couple days on that and then probably be like, all right, that's a cool party trick. But we try to do stuff that really matters, and that's what I focused on. And there are things though. I mean, the Home Assistant doesn't deal, if they're listening, I would love, they don't deal with time zone changes really. You can programmatically change your location, right? That's a service in Home Assistant. But as far as I know, maybe it's changed. I'm still running a very old version of my van. I'm up to date in the studio here, but there is no equivalent service for time zone. And that's a really important one for us because we change time zone all the time. And I know they didn't think of that. They weren't building it for mobile smart homes. But I built a custom integration. It's been a while now. It's in the Hacks community store called Geolocator, and it actually takes, if you have GPS coordinates, which we pull from our router, it looks up, it does a reverse geocode lookup for your city, state, zip code, and time zone, and then so we have all that data on our dashboard. And that sensor I do keep, which is really cool because it shows like every city we've ever been in. If you look at the history state of it, it's like all the colors. It's just like, because it's changing every few minutes, really, if you're driving. But the time zone thing was huge for time-based automations, for general display. We display the time zone on our dashboard. And it changes with daylight savings, all this stuff, because it's pulling from GPS coordinates. So that's a huge one that like I had to do custom work because Home Assistant just doesn't deal with it really. So that was like a practical application, right? Like the songs would be cool, but we really needed to know what time zone we're in.
I mean, speaking of, do you do any? How do you deal with this, like the clock on your dash, right? Does it just drive you up the wall, or have you found a way to automate that, or do you have something on top of it, like another clock, a smarter clock, let's call it?
No, it's accurate, and it's based on time zone. I mean, that's the problem. If you can't update your time zone, Home Assistant can't compute the local time. And I think I use weather clock card. I think that's a custom one, but it's a great one. I have a lot of people use it. And I think at some point he had added a feature to use your browser's clock, if I remember right. It was like it was using Home Assistant's clock. I don't remember what direction that went, but it got better. At any rate, once I got geolocator up and running, our Home Assistant install has the correct time all the time. So automations for, if it's a hard set time, like 6 p.m., are accurate all the time. But also our weather is
no,
pulled
but
in.
I mean like on your actual car dash, like.
Oh, well, nowadays they all update like. I thought you meant Home Assistant dashboard. Yeah, like the Sprinter has its own GPS radio and it's pulling time, and it even has its own SIM card, which is a whole other story. It doesn't do much, but you could have some little remote access to like lock the doors or whatever, or see the window status. But yeah, it updates on the dash. But I will say my integration and Home Assistant updates before the car does.
Nice.
So it's quicker.
Now, we were talking about energy management before. On your YouTube channel, you've got 2 versions of SmartyVan. You've got SmartyVan 1, and you're just starting SmartyVan 2 for Sarah, who you're working with to create her new SmartyVan. One of the things that you mentioned in one of your recent videos was that hardwiring sensors. Now, when you're hardwiring sensors, that obviously going to draw batteries. In SmartyVan 1 at least, are you using a lot of battery sensors or batteries in general, like in devices, to save on power usage or draw from your batteries on the van?
Well, it wasn't because I was worried about power consumption. It was just what I could find and understand at the time, like Zigbee sensors, right? Whether that's door sensors or leak detectors, even just like buttons. We don't really have a lot of buttons at all, but I was testing them and I sort of became aware of Zigbee and figured out, the radio I needed to connect. I was like, okay, if anything says it needs a hub, it doesn't really need a hub, was like this thing that you just, you graduate into that world of going, oh, you don't actually need a hub. You need a Zigbee radio that's connected to Home Assistant. That's great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't mind. I got tons of sensors. We have 3 leak detectors. We have every closet door has an Aqara sensor, and the lights come on when you open the door. Great. But they have the coin cells, and eventually they die. And I find some of them have a little bit of lag, they deep sleep or whatever. So you're not getting that instantaneous feel, because they were meant for like a door or a window open, and eventually you get the notification eventually. This is like, I want it right now, like this instant.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about power consumption. We have a huge battery bank, and a lot of that was to cover our butts, because I had never built a big battery bank system so we just went really big, which just kind of covers us. And with the alternator charging plus the solar power, we kind of do fine on power. It was more about convenience, and just, I didn't understand, again, like these things work in your house, it's fine. You might have to go around and replace coin cells, but I didn't really know how to do it any other way. That's the real answer. Is like, I found these products. For once, it was nice to find a product that I could use in the van that wasn't like, oh, this is only going to work in a house. Like, no, they actually work in a van. But there's a bunch of them. And for Sarah in particular, this 2.0 project, we don't want her to have to go tracking down dead sensors and digging around, especially like a leak detector. That could be buried under plumbing, deep in the carcass. Like, what a mess. It's just not elegant, I don't think. And for me, building something for someone else, it's like, I know where everything is in our van. We put every screw, every bolt in, but for a client, a partner, like, it's just not, I don't think it's good enough. I mean, I don't have a problem with wireless sensors philosophically, but like, for someone who's going to take this product and walk away and expect it to work for years, it's just better if it's hardwired. And they don't really consume any power, especially if it's like a reed switch. It's not actually consuming any power, right? So I'm if it's a magnetic sensor, it's not a problem. It just didn't have the knowledge when I first started. Plus, you got to run a lot of extra wiring. It's fine, but you got to do it ahead of time and have the planning in place.
Are you considering Sarah's SmartyVan 2? Will you take a lot of your learnings from Sarah's van, put them into yours, or will there be a SmartyVan 3 where you might make the next better version of SmartyVan? Like, what, now that you've done 2 vans?
Oh, that's a good question. There's definitely going to be a chapter 3 of some sort, whether that's a van or not, I don't know. But I definitely would like to retrofit some of this stuff in ours. I mean, again, the wiring is a little bit of a problem for some stuff, but there's certainly some things I could clean up with the learnings that, that I've had even just since we left, and went on our journey in our van. I mean, I was learning that whole time. And now that I'm executing 2.0, I think, there's stuff that I won't be able to help myself but to like retrofit into ours, but it's limited based on some of the kind of the wiring runs. And I only want to gut it so much, but someday, we'll pass this van on to someone else. And in its current state, like it kind of needs an operator. I mean, we know this about our houses, right? You guys, I watched one of your other episodes that I don't remember who was talking about. Maybe Frank was talking about this. I think that it's like, we do this, but our spouses or partners or family are just kind of like, if you're not there, it might not work. I don't want that for Sarah, and I don't want that if I sell our van, right? So like I will have to kind of tidy up some of this stuff and make it a little more resilient in ours, but I can only take it, I think, so far given the wiring.
Yeah, similar situation. Like when we've had Frank on December, he was just moving into his new house, I think, and so he had gone through the whole. I've just sold my house with all this smart home gear. Do I take it out? Do I rip it out? Do I hand it on to the next person? What if the next person doesn't want this stuff?
Right.
I guess.
Well, I mean, in our van, it's not an option. It's kind of, it is. Yeah. There are no switches anywhere. There's like, you got to use Home Assistant. I mean, and we're talking down to like the alternator charging is controlled by Home Assistant. Like this thing runs on Home Assistant. So you're not getting away from that. We could put some switches in if we really needed to. Obviously anything could be done. It's just how much work, but like, yeah. I'd like to find someone eventually who wants to take it, who likes this stuff, because it's going to be in that situation where it's like, ideally it's someone who kind of understands a little bit of it. But it's, I'll do some amount of work to make it more robust and less of a fidgety thing,
Yeah. Now, what you mentioned earlier that you're in the van specifically, you've stuck to an older version of Home Assistant, right? And, pinned to whatever version. What is your typical upgrade strategy look like? Just in the sense that, again, for you, one, it might be harder to do on the road, but two, I sense that it's probably more around stuff breaking and having to fix, or is it just you just never got around to it? That's totally valid too.
Well, it kind of started. I kept up for a while, and I would kind of carve out some time and take my time and do the update or read the release notes, and because our whole house runs on it. I mean, it's our mobile house, and like we can only be down for so long. I mean, energy's a problem, water, survivability. I mean, not really survivability, but like comfort level. It's all based on this stuff working. So it's kind of, I kept up with it, and then at some point I was like, I don't know, we're busy adventuring, and I just sort of fell off. And then it got to where I'm like a year behind now. I'm in like, I don't remember. I might even be 2024.11 or something. I don't know, but I'm way back. It might be 25, but like it's a year anyway. And I've really heavily debated it. It's been on my to-do list for ages to like sit down. I even have notes with a lot of the like breaking changes and stuff so that I can like go. I've debated whether I should do like incremental to like get myself current, or just do one big go and see what breaks. Like, but it just works right now. So I just have kind of, I'm trying to figure out the philosophy for this going forward. I mean, this is an open source project. How can I use this in like client vans? I mean, this van world is really coming around to like smart vehicles, not just vans, mobile homes. And a lot of people are kind of centering around Home Assistant, but there's this question. I mean, it's constantly evolving. As we know, it's always being developed, monthly releases. I don't really have a great feeling yet on which is best, freeze at a workable spot, or try to keep like clients or other people up to date. Even for myself, I ended up freezing and seeing how it's going to go. My biggest concerns would be like the native apps, maybe if something became incongruent there, like I rely on the apps. Anything else is really going to change, I think. I mean, there's something I'm not thinking of, I'm sure, but
well, I think the native apps alone, like you'll all of a sudden see like in the release notes, okay, now the minimum version supported is 2026.2. And like, okay, cool, right? I see Hacks integrations. I don't know if you've used Hacks or any custom components there, but
we do.
But they are always being updated, right? And they'll go minimum version now to be compatible with.
But we just don't update them. I mean, we've frozen everything. So if I update one thing, it's all gonna have to go. Which there's gonna be fallout. I have some dodgy stuff like in Home Assistant, like just because I didn't know any better. So that's another huge like underpinning my philosophy for 2.0 and beyond is just I'm trying to do everything as native as possible and keep it in ESPHome, native Home Assistant. I mean, there's going to have to be a few add-ons and things, but I'm really trying to keep it limited because some of the more exotic stuff is more likely to break or more likely to have updates. And I don't know, maybe you guys have an opinion, maybe your viewers have an opinion. It's like, in this case, it's not me running the thing. Once this van leaves this, this build and walks away with its owner, like, what's the better route, to update, to have them update, or to do like kind of quarterly things where we sort of remotely log in and help? I don't know the best answer, honestly. I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, that's really tough.
I've got opinions on both, right? Like, so there's yours, and then there's vans that you manage almost, right? It's the ones you manage are a lot harder because they're not in front of you necessarily, right? I find that if you do it monthly or like per release, or even like keep one behind kind of thing, you're a lot better off like just managing. Then it's just quick updates or quick, hey, make sure you change this one thing or update your whatever username, whatever things might have changed. The only thing you got to worry about is breaking, right? So, but it sounds like a lot of stuff that you're using is built by yourself, whatever. That's not as big of a deal because again, you can manage that, right? And again, ESPHome is actually pretty awesome in that you can now you can actually even distribute packages. So when you start saying, like, not now, it's been around for quite a while now, where you can push it to GitHub and then it'll pull down automatically, be like, hey, there's an update. And it's almost like a fully managed like commercial product, right? So for those kind of things, it's pretty neat. But for yourself, again, I think this update going from a year ago or however months ago, to me, that's scary as hell, right?
Oh, yeah, it's scary.
And because it's like, oh man, how much work is going to be involved? But I find
not zero.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But when it's monthly, it's like it's just it might be incremental, right? Just a little bit here and there, kind of thing.
It's like a question of does a build, a mobile smart home build, become a product where it's kind of done and you sort of say, that's it works. Everything in here is going to basically stay the same. If the house batteries get old and die, you probably replace them with a very similar thing. I'm not talking directly to the batteries in this case, so that wouldn't be an issue. Like, there's very little that should change. I mean, our van is like, we're not building an add-on to the van. We're not adding stuff. It's like it does everything we need it to do. So I'm sort of convinced that in ours, like it's a bit of a test that sort of ended up being a test in hindsight. That like, how long can we go? Really? Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see why you couldn't go a very long time, because again, it's not like you have cloud products and stuff like that. I assume again, we have.
Well, there's some integrations, but it's as little as possible. I mean, certain things could, like we use a weather API, and that they could change their API, but like that could happen. That's not really actually requiring me to update the install. That's actually just requiring me to update my YAML. So if the API endpoints change or something about it changes, so even that doesn't require an update. But I'm going to try to rely on almost nothing in 2.0 because I really do want to get it to a place where I could freeze it. But I'm not convinced that's the right move. I mean, I think there's more to think about there. And the real question is a certain kind of person who's going to own a vehicle that I might have spec'd out and built out going to want to tinker, or do they also kind of think of it as a product that's sort of done and is what it is, from here on? But if the native app changes, what am I going to do?
Yeah. And that's where the cloud reliance is kind of painful, right? And I mean, we talk about it every month, sometimes more than that, where somebody's pulled a cord on whatever product they have, right? And not updating certificates, not doing whatever, for a variety of reasons, which either may involve a lot of hands-on, or it requires an update of some kind, right?
Yeah.
So those are
it's a real thing.
Yeah. If everything is local, then you're probably good.
It's mostly local, and if I can go long enough without a major issue, it might sway me to kind of go that route.
To freeze, yeah.
Well, if you're looking to go local, then you can't go past Zeus. Zeus have just released their brand new Z-Wave long-range RGBW dimmer. You can now automate 12 to 24 volt LED strips with full brightness and color control. It's designed to easily install your momentary wall switch or pair it with your Z-Wave scene controller for more flexibility. You can use the RGBW dimmer for accent lighting, under cabinets, behind screens, or wherever crazy you can think to put an RGBW light strip. Zeus are an official Works with Home Assistant partner, helping Nabu-Casa by providing long-range devices for testing the Home Assistant Connect ZWA-II radio. So you know you're in friendly hands. Zeus offer a range of affordable and innovative devices, including water leak sensors, water valve controllers, smart plugs, and scene controllers. Their Zen 78 high power relay allows you to control and monitor higher load appliances up to 40 amps, which is perfect for pool pumps, air compressors, and other higher power outlets. So to upgrade your smart home and for all the best prices on Zeus products, head over to thesmartesthouse.com. That's thesmartesthouse.com.
I want to understand a little more about the automations and actual stuff that you're doing in the truck. We've talked about the truck itself, but not about what you're doing in there. So, I mean, we always hear about all your, motion lights and blah, blah, blah. What are a couple of like a van specific kind of automations that you've had to deal with, right? And I know you said you're going for practicality and you're doing those kind of things. What are some things that people don't think of that you need to, your top 3 things that you would advise for somebody building their own van, let's call it?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, lights, of course, are always going to be part of this, but
For sure.
we have things like water pumps, which it's a 12-volt pump it's a diaphragm pump that makes our water have pressure in the house. Like you have city pressure, city water pressure probably, or maybe a well and you have a pump. But so you might be a little familiar. But if there's a leak and your pump is on, it's just going to pump water into your van or all over. So one of the things I really try to monitor is having the pump off if we're not there. And so that's like a huge one for me. But there's a kind of a bucket of things. There's the pump. Our inverter, we use to invert DC to AC power for when we do need AC power, like our cooktop is AC, our tea kettle, Instant Pot, hair dryer, a couple things we use. We don't use a lot of AC power, but the inverter is got to be on to do that, but it has a little bit of idle draw. It also, can get warm when it's creating power. There's just no good reason to have it on when we're not using it. So like that's automated to go off. Most of this is based on presence. So if we're not in the van after so many minutes, all this stuff kind of turns off, including the lights. But yeah, the water pump's a huge one for me. Just that was the only problem I've ever had during the build. I was testing the water system. So we'd like build, and I'd drive around the neighborhood. And I was driving and I had leak detectors already installed, thankfully, Akara leak detectors. And they worked because it started. I got a critical alert on my phone and I was like, what's happening? Well, there was a leak, just a loose fitting. I hadn't installed tight enough correctly. And the water pump was on. And so it was just pushing water out of this thing, as I drove around. So I was able to stop, pull over, turn off the pump, stop the bleeding and fix it. But that's when I was like, okay, water pump is going on presence detection, because if you have a leak, you could be gone for hours or days and it's just sitting there pushing water into your home, into your van. So that's a huge one. Basically anything that you don't want at Starlink. I mean, we automate that if it takes a fair bit of power, right? And there's no sense if we're parked under obstructions to leave that thing on trying to find satellites. It's not going to find satellites, right? So we actually detect if it's obstructed, and then after a certain amount of time, I set like an entity that's basically called like I think we're obstructed or whatever. I forget what I called it. And then I sort of set that entity to true. We're obstructed. So now Starlink knows like forget it, turn off Starlink. And then when we start moving again, so if we drive, we use GPS data, that sensor gets cleared again and says, okay, you're probably not under obstructions again. So it's sort of a nice like overarching sort of toggle that says, if we've gone inside a service shop or something. That's another big one actually. Is we have something called service mode, which is we have a dashboard in our dashboard, if that makes sense, in the cab of the van.
Okay.
So we have a tablet there, and I use that for all kinds of stuff. But it has kind of a miniaturized version of our overview and some other stuff that's very specific to driving. But it has a little button for service mode. And so if we're about to go to get service, go in a shop, whatever, we tap that, and it basically does a bunch of stuff. But one of the big things is our diesel heater. This is a hydronic system that pulls diesel fuel from the vehicle's tank, so it shares the tank. It just sips a little bit of fuel, and it heats hydronic fluid, glycol basically, and it pumps that through our floor to heat our floor. It heats our hot water by heat transfer, and it also can blow hot air. So it's like our whole heating system is based on this diesel heater. Well, we don't want that to fire up if we're inside a building or in a shop. So if we turn on service mode, that's disabled. Starlink is disabled, basically. And then we have another cool thing. We have electromagnetic drawer locks. So when our drawers are closed, when the vehicle turns on, or and in some other cases, the electromagnetics lock and keep all our drawers closed.
You don't need to go in and latch each one. Oh,
yeah, and so when we hand the keys off to somebody else, though, we don't want those to come unlocked because they go to do a test drive or whatever, and then all the drawers are flying everywhere and everything's breaking. Sure. And so a service mode also just keeps those locked. So there's sort of like an overarching, button that just handles a bunch of that kind of maintenance related stuff, I guess. If someone else is driving, we don't want the lights coming on and off. They get confused about what's going on. They're like, stuff starts happening. So basically it just like stops stuff from happening and prevents the diesel heater from, firing up, which if they've got that thing up on a lift and that thing starts firing up a diesel heater, they might have some concerns,
not always a good thing. Yeah. And it could also be dangerous potentially. I don't know. But.
Yeah, there's some fumes and, they're just going to be like, why is this happening? And, so it's better just to avoid it. Yeah.
Get your van ripped apart for that. Yeah.
Yeah, they might turn some stuff off we don't want. Yeah.
Have you had much issues getting the van service? Like, because it is such a custom build now. Like, pulling it into a shop and be like, hey, like, can you take a look at this van? And then we're like, what is this? Have you come across that much?
Well, there's sort of two sides to that coin. The first side is the manufacturer, right? Like Mercedes, they don't love to see stuff modified. They'll, depending on the dealership you go to, fortunately, we go to a lot of different dealerships because we're all over the place. Some are better than others. Some will look at it and say, like, I don't know, it could be something so stupid like you've installed and they're like, well, we're not going to work on the suspension because you've got this thing back here. And you're like, those two things are not related. They'll take any chance they can get, to be honest, to like dodge, warranty work. But the third-party shops are great. I mean, there's a big world of these like adventure vans, camper vans, RVs, and like there's a lot of companies that have built up to service both sort of like the off-road stuff, the suspension and everything outside, but also just like all this technology and equipment that goes inside. So those folks are obviously like used to this. They're happy to deal with it. But we've had 50-50 with dealerships. Like, any major issues we've had mostly have been fine. But they don't love to see the heavy modifications. But honestly, the funny thing is everything we've done has made it better. Like we have a completely gutted suspension and it's far better than what they ship in it. So for them to make any comments about it's kind of funny, but they'll say like, well, these aren't our shocks. Yeah. So we can't look at your whatever EGR valve, like for diesel exhaust. It's like those two things have nothing to do with each other. But okay. And then you go to a different dealership and they're like, yeah, it's fine. I don't know.
Yeah. That's fine. You talked about presence as well, saying you use presence a lot for, turning off all these things and so on. How are you gauging that? Is that like cell phones? Is that motion presence sensors, like millimeter wave style, or what are you doing?
Well, for better or for worse, we went really simple. We use Bluetooth on our phones. I mean, it's just Shar and I. We don't have kids or pets, so like that could complicate things, I suppose. But we just each have an iPhone, and I have an Apple Watch as well. So the primary thing is Bluetooth. We're using ES Presence, which has been really great. I know it's getting harder for people with all the manufacturers, Apple and Google, like trying to lock down, privacy tracking of Bluetooth stuff. But if you know how to get the IRK off your phone and stuff, you can totally set that up and it works super reliably. I also have like a second level on for me, which is Wi-Fi. So I'm checking our PepLink router, which has an API. We can query it for the list of clients, and I'm just checking to see my name. So I kind of have like a heuristics that like combines Wi-Fi and Bluetooth for me, but for Shar, it's just Bluetooth. And then we just basically, we have, is anybody home, is nobody home, or is one of us home? And that handles all of our, we don't use any actual motion sensing, because for me, I wouldn't want to detect motion out the windows. I don't want to detect somebody who's not us. And we're always in a different place. So like we have cameras outside, which is great. We use it for object detection and all that, but we can't set up masks reliably, really, or anything, because we're always, moving. So we just really rely on the fact that we always have our devices with us, which if we didn't, that could be a problem. But that sort of became a rule. Shar sometimes would like leave her phone behind. I was like, okay, in this life, in this van, you gotta take your phone with you, because it's like the only real way I can know if we're home or not. I mean, there's other things we could do, but it's worked great. I mean, it was super reliable. We don't even think about it anymore. And I mean, yes, we do lights, which, if you're out in the middle of the nowhere and it's dark and you walk up to the van, like the underglow comes on, all the awning light glows, and then we open the door and those all come on. I mean, I know that sounds, really pedestrian, but it's like, it's actually pretty awesome when you're out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. It's amazing. Wi-Fi we have an antenna on the roof rack. So we've got like a 7-in-1 antenna. It's like all the cellular antennas, the Wi-Fi antenna. So my phone will join the Wi-Fi from pretty far out. So, I mean, it'll catch me pretty quick before, we're at the van.
How critical is Home Assistant to your van? Like, I'm thinking doomsday here. You wake up tomorrow and the inevitable SD card has crashed. You mentioned before that Home Assistant controls, was it the one of the core devices of the car? Like, are you pulling over to fix Home Assistant, or can you not drive? Like, is it mission critical, or have you got backups in place to handle if Home Assistant goes away?
There's sort of tiers there. I mean, we can drive for sure. We don't have any interaction with the vehicle in a way that could prevent that. I mean, the closest you could get is pulling too much diesel out of the tank, but the heater, it's set up for that. It's like the pickup for the auxiliary diesel is not all the way to the bottom of the tank. So like, there's really no way I could stop the vehicle from working with Home Assistant. So you could drive, so that's good. The alternator is controlled by Home Assistant, the second alternator, but I have a secondary method to activate it. There's kind of layers of fallback for depending on how critical systems are, and for that matter, I mean, even down to all the ESPs, I use the web server, so that if we have something called the magic drawer, which is like a motorized drawer where it's kind of become our safe, really. I mean, everyone knows about it now, but it's security through obscurity. Hopefully anybody who's like sees our van doesn't know it's our van. But yeah, it's a motorized drawer with like a linear actuator. And if for some reason Home Assistant's down, I can at least hit the ESP that controls it through the web server and still open it. Stuff like that. I mean, we fall back to those kind of layers. But the most critical thing would be to drive, and that's never going to be an issue. But yeah, we have the cloud backups. For Home Assistant itself, and I carry like a hot spare, basically microSD that's still in the packaging, still in the van, not needed it, but it's ready, and so yeah, I'm not too scared of that, because it's like I could be up and running again, in theory at least, very quickly.
Is the van connected to Home Assistant through like an OBD-II port, like so you can get stats of the van into Home Assistant directly and maybe see service codes or anything?
Yeah, we currently we are pulling through the OBD port, which is kind of firewalled, so you can read data, you can pull basic system stuff. I'm trying to think what we use it for the most. We use it for like fuel level and def level, because we have to monitor our def, stuff like that. I use something called a WICAN, which is from MeatPie. It's actually a cool fellow in Australia, I think, who develops that. And
he's reached out to us.
Yeah, Ali is great. And he also has the WICAN Pro now, which I do believe can read service code. So it's a little more robust. I'm going to be using that, I think, in Sarah's van. So I use it mostly for, just reading like, some data off the OBD-II. But we also just monitor something analog. We just monitor if the engine's on by checking there's like an actual post in the Sprinters that has a 12 volt, active when the ignition's on. We'll pull that for tons of automations are based on if the van is on, but that's just analog, like just reading the voltage. Yeah,
that's cool.
It's handy. Yeah, I'd like to get more codes, to be honest. Like that'd be cool, but that stuff's all right there on the dash, so it's kind of like again, how much of that do I really need to like try to integrate? The fuel is super handy. We actually disable our diesel furnace if the fuel level drops below a certain point, because it will suck dry out of the tube eventually, and then you got to prime it again. It's a whole thing. So we do use some of that data for actual automations, but it's only incoming. We don't really send any data to the van. That would definitely void the warranty.
Yes, it would.
That's a cool. I didn't think of that though. For like even the diesel heaters, right? Like how you could just dry out your diesel tank.
I mean, the pickup, it doesn't go all the way to the bottom for the auxiliary, but what happens is the diesel heater itself will dry up, and then right. You've got to prime that, and it's a whole process. Yeah. So I avoid that.
Frustrating. I was gonna ask. So like when you have all these sensors, whatever, and as you wire them throughout the vehicle. Do you typically, for the wired ones specifically, do you wire them back to a central point and then just kind of have all your ESPs there, or whether it's how does that look, the whole thing?
Well, that's evolving a lot for 2.0 essentially. I mean, in 1.0, most everything's wireless. It's mostly Zigbee. I mean, I kind of centered around Zigbee, and now I'm going to more like dry contact switches or digital output, that are powered sensors, whether that's like leak detectors will be powered sensors. I just put a short up today actually, I think, that I'm doing some like capacitive touch switches that are going to be kind of buried behind wood, so you could have switches without seeing switches, and those are of course low voltage powered sensors. So all that stuff's going to be hardwired back to, basically I'm creating like a brain. It's an ESP based device, which I'll certainly get into all that in deeper dive in a video, but it allows us to do digital input and digital output, wired from the sensor, and then wired Ethernet into a switch, into a router, and of course Home Assistant server will be hardwired. So I really am sticking to this philosophy of, follow hardwire all the way from Home Assistant server to a sensor and back, and not rely on too much Wi-Fi. And certainly I don't think almost any Zigbee. I think the closest, I mean, I love Zigbee, but again, it's the sensor side that's the issue, the batteries and maybe the instantaneousness. I mean, wired stuff is very instant. So if you want responsiveness, for cupboard door opens or leak detection or whatever, like you're going to get it with wired sensors. I mean, I know that's not fun for people in a house, whatever, you're not going to go like thread, wires everywhere for every sensor. You don't need to, but for this, I want it to be really robust.
But
I mean, for me, it doesn't sound fun doing that in a van. Just like, I can't imagine having to pull all the stuff down.
You start with an empty van, it's one thing. That's like this van, it's we're doing it as we go. We're like, I have a wiring diagram and these guys are helping me wire this before all the hardware is in there, before all the walls are up, before the furniture and cabinets are in. Then it's much more manageable.
Yeah. Okay. That's better.
I was going to say with wireless too, because one of the things wireless assumes, like when you're doing channel selection and those kind of things, it's like, hey, let me find a channel like for in your house. It's like, let me find a channel that's uninterrupted or that's open, whatever the most open is, right? You can't necessarily do that in a van because what's super open here, I can drive, a couple of kilometers out and that could be the worst possible channel, right?
That's a good point.
That to consider and continue.
It's true. It's true. I mean, we tend to try to be like out adventuring and like probably no pollution, but we end up in a campground. We end up in a city. We end up in, you don't know. And it's not been a major issue, but I mean, we're pretty saturated in the van, which also is something I'm trying to reduce for this version. I mean, we've probably got dozens of Wi-Fi clients on our router, and we have, the antenna on the roof is spraying Wi-Fi outside. We have an access point inside to make sure we have solid Wi-Fi inside because you're in a metal box. So now your antenna's on the roof. Now you got bad Wi-Fi inside. So, okay, so now I have to add an access point. So, but we're still going to have all that for robustness, but just way fewer clients. And if you do get in congestion, your lights or your sensor or whatever you're running on Wi-Fi, I've never had any trouble, but they're not going to fall down because of, congestion or a major conflict if they're hardwired. Yeah.
If you were going to say, I'm going to Home Assistant 2026.3 right now, I'm going to start fresh, what would be the first change or difference you would make from your current install of Home Assistant to the new one? What would you do differently?
Well, I don't know what would break, but I'm using, modern versions here, and man, let me tell you, I forget how nice it is to, like, when I have to go back and look at any of our automations, like just the automation interface. I mean, dashboard building. I'm stuck. I put myself in a version that had when dashboard sections were experimental.
Yes,
so they're there, but they were experimental, and I use them all over the place. But they were still in that experimental phase, and you have to select. You can't convert to the other types of dashboards, so I had to do some rebuilding. But that's where I stopped. So I mean, that's the biggest thing for me is building dashboards now just feels so much nicer, and automation so much more slick, and that interface, that workflow is so great. There's more stuff that's going to come too. I mean, that Frank was talking about, that I forget how they phrase that, the purpose-built.
The purpose-specific triggers, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to want that. But again, everything we need, my automations are clunky in some ways, probably because I didn't know how to write good automations, but they work. And it's like, I'm not going to go back and rebuild all that for fun. I'm just going to do a better job in 2.0. So, I mean, I'm managing all that a lot better. But just seeing that the evolution of those tools has been really heartwarming. I mean, I don't ever want to suggest that I wish they would stop releasing as frequently as they do, because it's always just getting so much better. But it does cause a problem for someone like me in deciding what to do with that.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because I know previously Home Assistant have skipped a month, right, for Christmas or holidays or whatever, and then you go to the next month. Oh, now we've got 2 months worth of contributions that we have to cram into this release. Otherwise, it's just going to be too big of a release, right? It's hard, right? Like when you've got so many contributors and the project's so popular, I guess it's a symptom of that.
And seemingly becoming more and more and more popular. And I mean, my view is quite narrow these days. It's in the mobile smart home world, and just watching that sort of blossom, especially around Home Assistant. I mean, not every company's effort surrounds Home Assistant, but a lot of them do. And I think it's going to be really fascinating to see how people try to sort of deal with these questions we're talking about, with the constant march of progress and these releases and breaking changes. I mean, I think that's slowed down a little bit. I don't know, like what you guys think, but I've only been with Home Assistant for three and a half, 4 years, so I'm all the way back to the beginning, but it feels like it's not always throwing you curveballs.
A lot of the configuration options now moved out of the YAML into the interface, which means that Home Assistant can handle that a lot better. There's no YAML they can't touch anymore, right? So I think that has helped a great deal. You won't see the breaking changes list with many doozies anymore. Occasionally, maybe once every few months there'll be a doozy, but for the most part, they're pretty under control now. Would you say, like in the vanning life, have there been any companies that create like these RVs commercially? Have they started to get into sort of smart home tech that you're seeing trickle down into like consumer available vehicles?
Yes, I mean, it's very different, I think, in Europe to the US, but there's a definite desire for it. And so I'm seeing it start to come into like Winnebago. It's a name most of us have at least heard. They have like a smart system happening, and it's exclusive to them, and it's pretty, it's locked down, but it does start to introduce some like automation and some things like that. So I mean, even they're thinking about it, and they've got to crank out a lot of vehicles at a cost, right? Then there's like the premium world that is kind of, I there's so many people coming into the market that's kind of hard to track, but like Garmin has an offering, but it's pretty limited. As far as I know, it's not currently like accessible remotely, which we haven't even talked about. That's a huge factor for me, is being able to reach the van when I'm not at the van. And so they don't really have like an answer for that yet. Victron, who is like a company you may have heard of, but like a lot of us in this world use their electronics equipment, from batteries to inverters to BMSs and their management system. They're starting to kind of tack on some bits that really feel like it could be. They have a little display that has always been part of their system, or at least has been for a long time. And so they're kind of set up for that. They have remote access stuff. They do logging to their portal. Like everyone's kind of got a different angle at it, but I'm definitely seeing it come like all the way from DIY up to Winnebago. Yeah, it's a hard problem to solve because you guys know like your house is very custom to you and what you want and how you're going to do it. So if you're going to put something in a box and ship it to people, it's going to be kind of limited. It's not going to address every air conditioner, every light system, every fan, every whatever. That's what I do, and it makes it bespoke. Because I have to sit down and go, what are all your components? Okay, I'm going to build this from the ground up for your system. That's not tenable as like a mass distributed thing, right? So, I mean, these companies are trying to figure out how much can we do that is universal to everyone? And the answer is it's not a ton. Lights are kind of universal-ish, but still, you're talking, do you have analog LEDs or do you have digital LEDs? Are they RGBW? Are they? I mean, just right there, you've got like, okay, well, how do we deal with those options? I like analog LEDs. I like the color temperature. I like a very specific color temperature, high PWM rate. Like I'm very sensitive to all that, right? I want high CRI lighting that's like really high quality. I don't even mess with digital LEDs, but some people want all the fancy colors and like the dancing stuff. And I'm like, great, but like that's a whole separate control system, really. I mean, so it's just right there. You're just like right off the bat, you're like, well, we got a problem.
Where do you start? Right? How deep do you go, right?
Yeah, so it's a tough problem to solve because I think, you tell me, smart homes feel like it gets the hobbyist like DIY moniker because it is so custom. Like, you don't just buy one thing and install it. You have a smart home now. You buy dozens of things and configure them and understand them. Same thing in a van, if not even maybe a deeper problem to solve. Because it's not so much retail products. It's like we're building ESP controllers for a lot of stuff, It's a tough problem to solve, but people want mobile smart homes. That I know. The question is, how do we get them there without having to do weeks or months of R&D on their particular project?
Yeah, that's a big problem.
I mean, it's a problem for people who don't have it. It's a good problem for me. It's a bad problem for those who are like, oh, I really want a smart van. Okay, well, how smart are you talking? Because
exactly. And how much time and effort are you willing to put into maintaining that smart van too, right? Because it's not just it's not just mechanical. It's then software updates, which one thing we've talked about a lot today, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people value that remote access idea as like kind of their number one. And that's kind of one of the things that's sort of scarce in some of the commercial products, because it's, again, a hard problem to solve. You can buy like an IoT, modem and put it in a box. And like, then they have like a fee, have a monthly fee, but it's like low data. I'm like, I want to stream my cameras. I want to like be able to like do everything I could do as if I was sitting there from anywhere in the world at all times. Like that's another big one. That's like, that's really what I think draws a lot of people is like, if they might not be full timers in their vehicle, they might have it in storage or they might have it parked out in their house. They want to be able to kind of like access it. That's a huge component of this. And it was for me too. I mean, we lived in our van, but we would travel away from it and I want to be able to monitor it and control it. And if not, I mean, maybe that's not for everyone, but that does seem to be a really popular request.
You mentioned cameras a couple of times. Are you using that more for security? I know you said you have some object detection that you're doing on those cameras there too. What are you using and what are you doing with it?
Yeah, it's a very popular question because I think our setup has been shown a little bit on the channel. The camera story is tough, right? Like this is a great example of the problem we talked about earlier. It's retail options for home owners, like normal, non-mobile home cameras galore, like IP, PoE cameras, anything you want. Like, but you're not really worried about power consumption. You're not really worried about how big they are or where they go or how they look or whatever. I mean, it's a tough problem. There's a lot of, I use basically like AliExpress, like I'll call it, no-name cameras. They're waterproof, but they're definitely not waterproof. Like, so I can't recommend them to people. I had to like get them and like rehouse them and like seal them up with silicone and like, it's a mess. There's no good options. And I'm looking for like a lipstick camera format that I can like point in a certain direction and still have, infrared for nighttime. There was like, I found some stuff, but it's like, it's not great. It works fine, but you have to do a lot of work to make it better. But I'm using PoE IP cameras and Frigate in Home Assistant, which is great. I mean, We have no problem using that mobily. I'm using a Google Coral on the Raspberry Pi to do object detection, and it's been great. I use it for, peace of mind. We catch wildlife, which is super cool. But when we got our bikes strapped to the back, we have our whole worldly possessions are in this vehicle, and you park in a parking lot, go into the gym or the grocery or restaurant. It's just nice to get a notification that someone's like at the sliding door or whatever. Luckily nothing's ever happened, but we've definitely caught some stuff that made us go out to the van and kind of shoo some people along or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's security, basically, peace of mind. Or think about this, you're inside the van, you got it all sealed up, the window covers are on, it's nighttime, you hear something. What are you gonna do? Fling the door open? Or someone knocks on the door, like if you're kind of covert sleeping in a parking lot. I want to look at the cameras first and see, is this like legit, or should I be like getting in the driver's seat and going? It's like, it's security, both inside and out, So we leave them running 24/7. But there's not I've got stories coming, but there wasn't a great story for cameras because I want to do power over Ethernet for sure, IP cameras for sure, but they got to be mountable and kind of get the right angles on roof racks. So it's a challenge, but there's stuff out there. It's not that cheap, and I wish there was something better. I think there's a future there for a product offering, hopefully from somebody, probably not from me, but like that's a market that needs addressed, I think, because we can't just go buy like Real Link and like slap them on the outside of the van. It's like it just doesn't work right. It not only does it not look good, it's not the right answer.
Well, you want it to be kind of subtle too, right? Like you don't
want
this giant thing. Right, that's sitting there like this giant ball, whatever. It's like, okay, if it's a little more hidden, it's a little more like whatever, then at least it's I don't know, it's a little more easy to drive around to different places without people being like,
yeah, it's true.
What is that? What are you doing? Are you here to monitor me? Are you here to? And it's like,
yeah.
No, man, I just don't want my car to get broken into, my van. Like
totally. Or if it does, I want like insurance documentation. I don't know, like at a minimum, I want that. But we're doing some cool stuff for Sarah's van. She travels with her pets, or she will be traveling with her pets. So we're gonna do an interior camera that has like two-way audio, so she can like listen. We'll do AI like bark detection, so she'll get alerts if they're barking. Like she can talk back to her dogs. So there'll be one inside, and we'll do all the outsides. And that's all it's all Frigate, it's all object detection, much more compact form factor now. I don't know, like in our server video, we're using like a Halo 8 inside the server. So now it's not like a dongle hanging off. We're obviously using an SSD properly, doing that correctly this time. And I'm actually, my next video is going to be about this. The networking sort of layer is really cool because these are all PoE, so we can turn individual ports on the switch on and off to basically power our cameras on and off. So we can automate. If we're home and it's daytime, we don't necessarily need the cameras on. Great, let's save some power. So this is going to be a really great story for that. In our van, we did a lower end version of that where just kind of had a PoE switch that I could just turn off the whole switch, but I couldn't individually hit the port. So it's evolving for sure. But the camera story is, there's leaves a little bit to be desired, but I think there's solutions that are coming that are a little more well suited. Basically, you're going to have to pull from the marine world, which let's just say we all know it's not cheap. Like, you can find stuff for boats like this, but the boat world is a whole nother level of money. Money's not a thing.
One of our early episodes, we had Adam on, who was living in a houseboat, right? And he had to deal with things like shore power. Does he have shore power? Is he running off the so very similar situation, I'm imagining.
Yeah.
Finally, before we go, is there anything that you're hoping to add this year to your SmartyVan at least? Anything like on your to-do list that you go, I want to get that knocked off this year?
Oh my gosh, my to-do list is so long. You know what? I think it's time for me to bring my Home Assistant OS up to date. I think that's the biggest thing I could do. Right now we're obviously a little more stationary, so I could survive some headache to I didn't want to do it out in the field, and I think that was the right choice. But I think that's it. Everything is. I'm so happy with how everything has turned out in there that I kind of don't want to touch anything, but I do think it's time. I would really love some of these wired sensors. Like every time there's a 1 or 2 second delay when I open a cabinet and the light doesn't come on, I'm just like, Sarah's going to have ones that work like instantly. But I'm not pulling wires through that whole van. Yeah, it's not going to happen. But maybe it's time to update the OS.
I love how you have the envy for the 2.0 van, and
Yeah.
it's not even like a thing yet.
Well, maybe 3.0 will be ours. I don't know, but this is keeping us busy
funny.
for now.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been awesome. Where can people find you if they want to watch your videos?
Well, YouTube's the best place at SmartyVan. I'm on Instagram a little bit, but you can find the shorts, you find the longs. The Discord is huge. There's a SmartyVan Discord. The link is in the YouTube. You can find it easy. It's an open public server, and there's like, I don't know, 600-700 people. And it's amazing because the community is so helpful. Yeah, we're all kind of like mobile smart home, but everyone's doing the same stuff. That's what I kind of wish there was a little more of this in the like. I still don't even have the terminology. I always say mobile smart home, or whether your smart home has wheels or not is like the best way I can think to do that. But we're all doing kind of the same stuff. So our community is a little bit focused on the unique problems of mobile smart home, but we don't have to have a mobile smart home to be there. So come check out the Discord too. It's kind of awesome.
Links in the show notes, of course. Thank you so much, Mark. Really appreciate it.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much, and good work
Thanks,
with the podcast. You guys are killing it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.